I want to welcome everybody to the fifth and definitely the last presentation I'm doing. We have one more presentation this evening at the camp. I want to encourage everybody online to join us. Let's open with a word of prayer. Holy God, we thank you that we can come before you to not only have a deeper relationship with you, but to have that relationship built on education and understanding, knowledge and wisdom, rather than fear and ignorance. You have promised that the truth sets us free. We pray that we would be set free, however painful that journey might be. In Jesus' name, amen. So we've been speaking about grounds for divorce. We understand about adultery. We're exploring whether or not there are other reasons, legitimate reasons for divorce. When we speak about adultery, we know it's illegal sex. Question is, why target sex? So I'm going to express it this way. I gave a moral reason, which was to do with vulnerability or trust. And people have questioned whether or not a moral answer is sufficient. What they wanted was an answer based upon methodology. We might say of rules or logic. Just want to point out in my defense, we've had plenty of teachers in the past and recent history that have been content to give moral responses, and the movement has been happy with that. But I'm all good for following the rules. Okay, we've discussed the rise of patriarchy. We understand what patriarchy is. Dad rules. We know that matriarchy is equally bad, equally wrong. Because we shouldn't live in a world where mum rules. So we've been discussing two streams, if I can call it that. A biblical model and the scientific one. Technically, anthropology is a science, but maybe that's also a religion to some degree as well. Specifically, my reading of the Old Testament, that's on the top of the board, and Angela Saini's reading of natural history. What I've tried to do is to bring those two histories together so that we could overlay them and learn from both. So that's what this graphic shows. Done it in 3 simple steps: hunter-gatherers, agricultures, and then kingdoms. Her focus is on number 3. I understand that. But I do think we can lay out her version of history as is on the board. 1, 2, 3. What I then tried to do was to look at the biblical perspective, taken from the Old Testament, that lays out history in the same way. We go from gathering before sin to agriculture after sin. And then you get to a place where, although we've got the Tower of Babel there, agriculture and Tower of Babel is sort of pre-flood. But later on in our conversation, we were talking about a post-flood scenario. That's why I've got cities and kingdoms there, in parentheses. We discussed about the relationship of the old to the new as being a framework of legality and a framework of morality. And then we broke the Old Testament into the law and the prophets. First 5 books, and I think it's the remaining 34 books. And then what I said is, I'll just read. In the Old Testament, when it says you have been told, it refers to the law, which is those 5 books. Then we re-looked at the Old Testament, where we'd said law and prophets, which is shown here. And then we overlaid that with the 3 steps that we've got here, where it says Old Testament on the right-hand side. So we've got hunter-gatherer and agriculture with law. And then we've got cities with the section of the Old Testament called the prophets, but this is the rulership of the kings. We spoke about, first of all, the theoretical possibility and the reality that the Israelites modified their laws. And those modifications happened as their society matured and developed, and they went from an agricultural society to, I'm just going to call it a kingdom. They have several books, and we've just put one on the board, the Mishnah. In all of our conversations, I'm not discussing whether things are morally good or morally bad. Then they asked if we could all agree with the following statement. All biblical dealing with divorce is based upon an agricultural model. An agricultural model is an intergenerational model, and it's built upon a framework of ownership. And the question that we need to ask ourselves, in the world in which we live, our dispensation, should we be held accountable to laws that are based upon a very different societal model? We discussed two people that look bad, at least to me. One of them was not Judah. Ellen White looked pretty bad. The other person, God. God looks pretty bad. And Ellen White looks pretty bad. At least to me, perhaps not to you. So let's just have a sort of a brief discussion of this intergenerational wealth issue. We discussed this yesterday. If we call it, we've got 1 and 2. Hunter-gatherer and agriculture. What changes that drives all of this? When I say all of this, I mean all of these laws to be framed in the way that they are. What changes? Gloria. So Gloria said going to the cities. We're only at 1 and 2. And there's not city there. So they haven't gone to the cities yet. So we're asking what changes from 1 to 2. Denisa. Try and put our hands up if we can.
The model of patriarchy was created. The model of patriarchy was created.
So I'm going to say no to that answer. I'll go with Peter. We've got loads of people going to answer now.
Ownership of the land.
I'm going to stop there. What changes is land. That's the key. And I don't know what Is that what everybody else was going to say? Land? Yeah. It's not about the quantity of people. If we hadn't sinned, how many people would there be? Billions. And each of them would have been gatherers, not agriculturists. So it's not about quantity of people. It's our relationship to the land, how we view the land. So most ancestral societies that we see today, I guess the ones that sort of still exist are in South America and Africa mostly. There are some other places too. You'll see that I'll just call it their religious beliefs. They kind of worship the land. They sometimes might view the land as a symbol or representation of God. But one thing that's common throughout all of those societies is that they view themselves as stewards of the land. It's not their land. The land is just there, and the people just come and go whilst the land remains. And when you're there alive, your role is to take what you need from the land because it offers gifts to you. And in exchange, the land expects you to do what? Not pay tithe.
Sit down to your son.
Take. Shemaine, sorry. Shemaine, you said what? No, it's to take care of it. The land will give to you its fruits, and in return, the land expects from you to take care of it as a steward. That's number one. As soon as you get to number two, the relationship between you and the land changes. Many people, what they now do is rape the land. They take advantage of it. But it doesn't begin there. As soon as you settle down and you're going to use that land to essentially now grow your food, as opposed to gather what you can, you're going to seek for the best piece of land, and then you want to keep it. So if we're okay with that, that's the selfish bit of it, if you like. We've discussed selfishness. Does everybody understand what's on the board now? It's our relationship to the land that changed. And now that's going to drive things in a direction that's, I'm going to say, is not good. Magda mentioned ownership. And ownership's going to come up in several ways. The first one is ownership of the land. So we've just said that. So I'll call that selfishness. And then we mentioned gender. Babies. What's going on there? Mike, sorry. Sorry, he's not paying attention.
You refresh my mind. What we are doing?
What are we doing?
A relationship with divorce of international wealth. Because I'm lost.
In the Bible, it says the only grounds for divorce is sex. And I said the reason is because sex is so important. And I use the word vulnerability. People said that's a silly reason. Or insufficient, at least. Need a better reason. Why sex? And giving, hopefully, better doesn't mean in quality. It's in methodology. He's explained that law and why it's framed that way. And if you have, we've already created a line, and we've done line upon line, all for the purpose, take the law of adultery. I'll give you the exact. No. Matthew 5:27, it's verse 27. That's the law that's spoken of in the New Testament. Verse 28 isn't law. It's a moral. But yet, Jesus says, I did not come to change. All good or not? No, verse 28, not verse 29. Yes. You don't understand the difference between law and moral. Okay. So Shemaine says she's not going to talk anymore. You said. I heard that. So, it's the, what's your question? Well, it was already recorded anyway.
So my question is simple. I don't understand
That's
what's
not a question.
but I don't understand. Okay. So can you explain me what we are doing? Okay. So we are trying to we are trying. Stop. Okay.
If your question is, what are we doing? I'll just repeat what I said, because that's all I can do. In the Bible, it says the rules of adultery, sorry, the rules of divorce are only to do with sex. Why? Why pick on sex? Nothing else.
So as far as I understood, you said it's because it was placed upon an agriculture model. Now we have to have a new answer because we are in another dispensation. And after, I'm lost.
So when Shemaine just ended is as far as we've got. So she, in fact, wasn't lost. She understood everything. Agree? If we didn't go further than what you said, you're not lost. Man. Okay, we've addressed the subject of selfishness. When I say we've addressed it, I don't mean its completeness in the point that we want to make. Selfishness is what? The context of our conversation. Land. You own the land now. Very selfish. Gender. What's gender got to do with it? Gender is babies. It's not who's got the biggest muscles.
When you own the land, you need,
She can't hear. You got to tell her you can't hear. Don't wait. Let's start again.
when you own the land, you've got to be able to protect the land. And you need babies, men.
If your answer is that you need men to protect the land, that's not the right answer. Because you can get many hired servants to do it for you. Slaves. Anyone else?
The land has to be kept in the family.
So we'll begin with that. Has to be kept in the family.
From generation to generation.
Don't mind that bit. Has to be kept in the family. How do you keep it in the family? So before you do that, I've got gender. Keep it in the family. Before we progress, I don't do this at every study and I don't have a sort of like a warning. And I do know that sometimes my language is flippant, disrespectful. But I do know that a lot of the material that I cover is triggering. So I do apologize to the people that are triggered, not just by my language, but the subjects that we're addressing. Monica, we started off with keep it in the family.
You need children to have a big family to which you can pass your wealth on.
No. Anyone else? These are all good answers. Or I'll get into trouble if we don't keep laser focused. The answer is no. If women get pregnant, they can't work. No. Anyone else over there? Not at the front. Any Solange? People at the back. Speak slowly, Solange, because they don't pick up your accent easily.
So women can inherit the land.
That's your. Anyone else? Magda.
In this time, women are seen as property.
So we got women are seen as being property. So I can't inherit the land and I've got property. They're both true. The subject about babies. And Gloria has said, keep it in the family. Debbie, then Monica.
So what I was going to say was violence increasing, development of violence increasing, produced the development of patriarchy. Which made it necessary for the inequity, the discrepancy, the difference between male and female roles.
Good answer, but not what I'm looking for. Sorry.
Okay. If a woman gets pregnant with another man, then it interferes with the wealth of the family.
Get that? Says keep it in the family. So the problem is the baby. Whose baby is it? And what do you, the man, need to ensure? What do you need to be sure about? Ensure, be sure. That it looks like you. It has to look like you. If it doesn't, you get rid of it. That's what that's the second point we need to address. Do you want to say anything more, Gloria? It's all about whose baby it is. Because if this is someone else's baby, who owns the property? The other man? That family? Or your family? So property, inheritance, all of those things are correct. But it's about making sure that your children look like you. That they're really yours. That's what this issue is about, the gender. What's the third point we've discussed in the past? Selfishness, gender, and the agriculture. So we've already dealt with agriculture, which is about property. That this needs to, you need to keep control of this. So if we bring this all together, someone summarize it. What's all this sex stuff got to do with adultery? Why is it so critical? Who wants to have a go? Marco, do you want to have a go? Wait for a mic.
I would say that the sex thing is just key for the working of this type of society. All is turning around on in order this model to work, to be just, to make justice to the families in this model. To have justice and laws in this model. Focus on the, well, on the gender, on the babies, etc. So
Peter, do you want to have a go? Denise, do you want to have a go? Nobody? Anyone else? Debbie.
To maintain the status quo, not rock the boat, not rock the boat, not disrupt,
Yeah.
not.
So we go to the Old Testament. Thank you. And a married man has sex with a prostitute. Is that good or bad? Is prostitution good or bad? We're in the in the Old Testament, a man has sex with a prostitute. Is it good or bad? Put your hand up if it's good. Online, we've got 4 women that said it's good. I just want to point that out, not a single man. Sleeping with prostitutes is good in the Old Testament. Let me take a pause because I don't believe what I just heard. Did I do that one again? People just said it's good to have sex with a prostitute in the Old Testament. Do we really believe that? Online what? They said online, something about online. Give me a second. I'm trying to see if I can find something. If I can't, then oh, there it is. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, see if I can find it. Okay, so I'll ask the question again. In the Old Testament, is it good for a married man to have sex with a prostitute? I reframe it. Is prostitution good in the Old Testament? Can we all agree it's not good before we get into trouble? We have a couple of radical feminist women in our movement that won't be happy. And I want them to know it wasn't me. It was these women. And I won't name you. So we agree in the Old Testament, prostitution is bad. Book of Proverbs says, don't listen to that woman and all that kind of stuff. Her lips are deceptive and all that. So it's not good for married men to sleep with prostitutes. Can we agree with that? So simplistically, based upon what we've understood, why isn't it that bad? It's not good. When I say that bad, as bad as what we've been discussing, without using the A word. Go ahead.
Because it will be the child of the man again. So if there would be child. Yeah.
Did we get that? They're not going to have children because she's a prostitute. It's for fun for him. But if she wasn't careful, because it's all down to her, not him, if a child was born, and Magda already told us that women were just property, they were just nothing. The story is about the patriarch, the father who rules, and his children, not the children, not their children, his children. So it doesn't really matter who the woman is. So Magda said, if she had a child, who would own the child? Whose child is it? It's the man's child. Therefore, you have, everybody knows who that child is. There are several examples, at least one. In the Bible, we have such a situation, and that child, even though it's ostracized, is still considered to be part of the family. They don't like the child because it was a child of a prostitute, not the mother or the wife. But that child's position in society is that, because this is about men, he's still the son. Even if it's a second-rate son. That's what Magda said. We okay? Prostitution is bad. Sleeping with prostitutes is not good. But it's not the crime of adultery, because adultery is about maintaining intergenerational wealth. Keep it in the family. And whose baby is it? Sleeping with a prostitute, I'm going to use Debbie's terms, doesn't rock the boat, doesn't cause problems. It doesn't disturb society. Debbie.
A question. Concubines weren't considered prostitutes? Family? Is that correct? Concubines considered family?
Could you tell
Is
us
that correct?
what you understand a concubine to be?
A mistress.
If we're talking about a mistress, you're gonna get to essentially a second wife. And that's pretty acceptable. Who has two wives, two sisters?
Abraham.
I go with Jacob, not Abraham. Because Abraham's second wife is a slave. And when she gives birth, she has to do what? She has to sit on Sarah's lap to give the birth, when she gives birth. This Hagar indicating that child is not Hagar's child. She has no rights to that child. It's Sarah's child. So it's a very different dynamic to Jacob marrying two sisters. We're good so far? Next example. These are all ones we've discussed. We already discussed prostitution. And we've discussed this next one. But what I want us to see as we're discussing these is why they're not the crime of adultery. Why they're not problematic. You have sex, you're a married man, same thing. And you have sex with an unmarried man, an unmarried woman. Good or bad? Okay, so we're going to have to train you. Sleeping with single women, if you're married, is not good. It's not good. It's interesting. Maybe exciting, but it's not good. So let's go with the way Marco expressed it. He said it's bad, but not so bad. That's what we want to see. So the word for not so bad is, it's not adultery, it's fornication. Fornication is adultery that's not so bad. Or a type of sex. Do we understand why it's not so bad now? That's what I want us to see. Prostitution is fornication. She's not so bad. Sleeping with a single woman is not so bad. And the thing is, we think these things are evil and the crime is the same. But from their perspective, it isn't. And remember, who wrote all of these laws? And who's Moses? The voice of God. And what God is that? Jesus. This is Jesus saying, sleep, you're married, you've got children. It's not so bad if you sleep with a single woman. That's Jesus saying that. And prostitution is bad, but if you sleep with a prostitute, it's not that bad. Because we all know you need to keep it in the family and track the babies. That's what's really important in life. Signed, Jesus. I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty bad to me. Pretty indefensible. Certainly not the Jesus that we read in Matthew. And certainly not the Jesus that we want to believe in and worship today. Because that Jesus wasn't that good. Women have to cover their hair, can't cut their hair, has to dress in a certain way. They have to do all the cooking and cleaning for Jesus. New Testament. Kiss his toes. The whole thing is gross. Not the Jesus, the clean one we serve now. So, in summary, what I want to say, sex, morally, the vulnerability, the trust works. The reason why it's sex is because the only purpose that women serve is to produce babies, and any sensible patriarch wants to make sure that the babies look like him. And if you break that pattern, it's really bad. The woman gets thrown out, called adultery. Not just thrown out, it has to be killed to act as a warning that this stuff doesn't go on. Because God forbid, someone might take your 1 hectare of land. So we better kill the women to stop that happening. That's what this law related to sex is about. And that's why that's the only rule, only criteria that you can divorce over. You have how much sex you want, it doesn't matter. Just do it with the right people. And if you do it with the wrong people, you just get a little slap on the wrist. Any questions? Are we okay with what's on the board that has a question mark? Do we now have a prophetic framework, line upon line, a methodology to say why it's illegal sex? Not stealing or lying. So why would abuse not be one of the reasons? Abuse is pretty bad. Because it doesn't interfere. Doesn't interfere with the ownership of the land. How ugly is that? Okay. We mentioned that when we get to the cities, the Israelites started dealing with problems in their society. And surprise, surprise, they begin to add laws that say, if you're married, who's got all the money, by the way? The men have got all the money, always. If you marry someone and you don't take care of your wife can take you to court and make you take care of her. And if you don't listen, Do that a couple of times. And what can she do? She can divorce you. This was legal in the Jewish economy, but it's not scriptural. So, if you didn't give your wife some money or take care of her, we might call that abuse, but it might get to the place where it's actually, I don't think we've phrased it this way today, irreconcilable differences. Just because the Jews did it doesn't mean it's right. We can't just say, well, they do it, so we can do it. It's not an argument. So we still need to get and resolve the dotted lines, basically, get to that point. Study number 1, maybe it was 1 or 2. Remember this one? Compare and contrast. Marriage begins by being compatible, agreeing. Therefore, marriage ends when you're incompatible and you don't agree. Does that sound fair enough? It's a problem with that. Let's see if we can do this. It sounds reasonable, I think, until I add a little bit. Let's go back to the beginning. Do we see that they're equal? Like a, so it all looks fine. It looks balanced, yes? And if it's balanced, it looks right. At the beginning, how many people are there? 2 people. What must they both? What must they both do or be? They must both be, it's on the board, compatible. So forget the spelling. One has to say, I'm compatible, or you're compatible with me, and the other one has to say the same thing. And they both have to agree. Onto the other one, still 2 people. One of them says, incompatible, and don't agree. What does the other one say? Compatible, agree. Number 1 says here, I want to marry. Number 2 says, I don't want to marry. Do they marry? No. One says yes, one says no. They both have to say yes. See the problem? It's on the right-hand side. One says yes to divorce. And the second one says no to divorce. Can they get divorced? Yes. So this looks all good to begin with, but there's a problem there. So this isn't a stronger argument as it initially appears. Okay with that? Another thing I wanted to discuss is no fault. The Seventh Kingdom says what about no fault divorce? You cannot have it. So where did this no fault stuff all come from? From where? Feminism. Today, 50 states agree with no fault. They're all slightly different. Debbie's checking on the phone where it all started from. It starts in 1969. Sorry, Judge. 1969. In which state? What's the worst state in the USA? California. No, California is the worst one. By far. 1969, California. This is the first state that's going to pass no fault divorce. And who's the president of California? No, 1969. Reagan isn't ruling in 1969. It's 20 years. Who's the president of California? No. Reagan. I said the president because she's American. She knows. President of a state is called the governor. Each state has 3 branches of government. It's all identical. They've got their own army. It's all the same. All good? Yep. So it's Reagan in 1969. I don't know if that's coincidental or ironic, creates the no fault divorce. And then 20 years later, he's going to have his project, I guess 1989 or Project 89, we'll call it. As we learned in Anna's presentations recently. Which you should all watch. They're really good presentations. Important, not just good, important. All good? All good? Not good? Yep. So I just wanted to add those 2 things in. Do we want to discuss divorce for any reason or divorce for abuse? Remember, if we do any reason, abuse just fits into it. If we do any reason, abuse is any reason, one of the reasons. Okay, so let's try to think of this any reason. So when we first discussed this, we sort of went back and forth as a group. So it seems to me that the reason why people struggle with this any reason one is what will it lead to? Any reason divorce. Where will that take us? Polygamy. What's polygamy? You said you don't know? More than one wife. Having many partners at the same time. Can someone define what polygamy is? Are we okay with that? More than one partner at the same time. So any reason divorce will not increase polygamy. It will just increase the rate of divorce. And then it also potentially increase the rate of marriage. Lots of marrying and divorcing. So, I don't know what people think about that. What do we think about any reason divorce? Magda.
Okay, so when it's not from the perspective of we can do anything, like the freedom. But more like human rights, where in Declaration of Independence is life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And it's in our nature. We discuss the levels of selfishness. So we do have a right to protect ourselves. Liberty, we have a, like in the Declaration of Independence, we have a right of choice. And two people go into marriage freely. They are together in the relationship because they both want to. In the minute one decides it doesn't work for them, if you take the right of them to not being able to leave the relationship, that equals to force. So the natural right we have will be taken away from us. Yeah.
Isn't that a bit selfish? Or a lot selfish? Just selfish. Isn't it selfish?
So you take in account your self-worth. If you are unhappy, why should you be in a relationship for make someone happy where you will be unhappy?
You don't believe in turning the other cheek. Okay. Anyone else? Monica. Did anybody understood what Magda said? Did anybody besides Shemaine not understand what? Give it just back to Magda for quickly. Just like in a sentence, briefly tell us so that we're already clear. Because if Shemaine didn't understand, other people won't be clear as well. Why do you think it's okay to divorce on any reason you want to?
So in connection to the not inherit in the natural no. Okay, we have a life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. In that we have included that we have the right to choose. In the relationship, two people coming together because they decide, both of them, for themselves. Would take the right of one person to leave that relationship. You're not ownership. In ownership. So you're not owned by the partner. You both freely decided to go together into a relationship. If you take the right away from one of them to leave the relationship, you're just taking human rights out of them.
Okay. Just one more question. I know we're out of time. When I marry you soon, and you stand in front of everybody, will you agree for better, for worse? Will you don't have to answer here. Monica, not that question, your own point you want to make, and then we have to close because we're over time. But not that point. Because you're already married.
The relationship can only be healthy only when it's voluntary and happy. If this is not there, why stay in such a relationship? Second one.
Are you suggesting it's better to be on your own and lonely than in a second-rate relationship? Is that what you just said? It's kind of what you said, no, not.
When we talk about divorce, it means that we could remarry. I think this depends on the person. Someone would rather be alone. If you only have those two choices, they'll be alone, and someone would rather be in second-rate relationship.
The reason I asked, because yesterday Denisa said that generally women are happier single. So I won't go any further than that. Your second point.
Okay, second point. I do believe in turning the other cheek.
Which one? One that's bruised or just red? It's a serious question.
If there is a willingness to work on the relationship, I believe we should put effort into it.
Is that answering my question? So you turn the red one, work on it until the bruises start coming.
I think that's what Denisa said yesterday. There comes a time when enough is enough. When you don't have another cheek to turn.
We have to finish? You're in charge. And Aileen's in charge. He's got all those translators. No. They're in charge. Sorry? Okay. We have to close. I'm sorry. We have to respect our translators. Do a good job for us. Let's close with prayer. Holy God, we want to thank you that you bear with us, and whoever we are, if we come to you with an honest heart, desiring to understand the truth, you will allow us to question you, to put yourself on trial and expose all of yourself to our interrogation. Thank you for the teachers in this movement who have given us these invaluable methodologies to get a clearer understanding of the truth. It's these truths that set us free. In Jesus' name, amen.